Hello and welcome to Break Panel Sports. I'm John, joined alongside Joel. And we are two people who do not ignore what's going on. We have to definitely get this out the way first. We are recording this Wednesday morning about 11:44 in the morning Eastern Time in the great state of New Jersey, as you know. And Donald J. Trump is the next president of the United States. That is our reality. That's what happened, right?
Mhm.
Joel is alongside me. We're just going to spend a couple minutes. Obviously, we can't ignore it. That's just the way things are.
Yeah,
Joel, I mean, it's interesting. The American people made their decision, and now we have to go on and live with it and see where this all goes. I think it was against a lot of people's expectation of the night,
mhm.
especially the margin that he took that election in. But we will see where it all goes. And I think the biggest thing we're going to say is, just based on people we know, we know a lot. We know a lot of people that are excited. And we know a lot of people that are very afraid. And really, no matter what side of the coin you're on, just the sun rose today, and we all have to just kind of continue to live as we all have been doing so before this happened, after this happened, and we'll continue to just live. So, if you are afraid of what's going on, hug your loved ones. I'm always here to talk to people. They need to talk to people. But again, just be kind to people. That's all.
Yeah, I I was kind of hesitant to talk about it, right? But then I was talking to you this morning before we were recording and watching the election last night. It's like it's gonna be very hard to just ignore this, you
Yeah,
know? But the thing is also we're a sports podcast. We talk about sports. We don't really try to get into these sort of issues, the election and all this stuff with politics, but we can't ignore the country that we live in, you know?
right.
Like you said, we live in America, and this was a big day for America. Donald J. Trump is now or soon to be president of the United States once again. And yeah, kind of like what you said. I understand that there are people out there that are upset, they're frustrated, they're kind of confused with the outcome. I think a lot of people are especially shocked by how fast it happened.
Yeah,
You know, because when it was originally about to start, some people were saying, "Oh, you may not find out who wins until Thursday. You know, you may not find out who wins until Wednesday, whatever." Yeah, we found out within not even half a day.
yeah.
Pretty much already found out. So, like I said, I understand that people out there are very frustrated with this outcome, but yeah, like you said, it's all right now. It's all just about getting through it. You know, a lot of these people we've already been through Donald Trump election presidency reign before. It's happened before, and I believe that people, as much as they don't want to, or some people would want to, we're just gonna have to go through it again.
Again, the biggest thing I say is to people that are upset. The sun rose today, right? The sun rose today. Continue to breathe. Go outside, take a walk. Just see where your head's at.
Especially in the state of New Jersey that we're in, and I mentioned this to
Yeah,
you, John. It's very warm outside. It's very
it's a
warm.
great day outside. It's a
I
beautiful
think
day.
I think it's gonna be like 80 degrees. It said. I think it's gonna
Yeah,
be 80.
exactly. Perfect opportunity. Go take a walk. Now, to some people, that may be a concern that it's 80 degrees and November 4th, 6th at this point of the year, um, but take it for what it is, right? Take it for what it is.
Yeah.
But
It's gonna be
Joel,
Christmas next
yeah,
month. It's gonna be
Christmas is
Christmas
next
next.
month. Christmas is
It's gonna
next
be
month,
Christmas next month, and it's
and it
warm
feels like
outside.
August. It feels like it's August. Um, yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
I don't really remember. I mean, I don't know, but we're a sports podcast, right? We're not a weather podcast. We're not a political
Yes.
podcast, but um, we know everybody that we know that has a show as well. It's at least took a couple minutes to just acknowledge that that happened, right?
Yeah.
So here we are. But Joel, I haven't asked you though. How you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah,
I am doing okay. With everything that's been going on, I think I am. I like how I said I think.
yeah,
I am fine. But what I will say, as far as for sports go, yesterday was also a pretty big day. It was the NFL trade deadline.
yeah.
I don't like. I feel like that's kind of crazy that it
It
was
was
on the
wild.
same day of the election.
Yeah, it was the NFL trade deadline. The college football top 25 got released.
Yes.
There were two MAC football games on. The NHL had their full schedule yesterday.
Hmm.
There was still plenty of sports going on yesterday. You couldn't ignore it. It was interesting. I didn't watch a ton of the action. I watched a little bit. I don't have any strong reactions to the college football top 25. I know you know I'm college football.
Hmm.
big time. It was about what I expected. Just to say that. But the trade deadline. I mean, we all know the big winner of the trade deadline, the Washington Commanders, who
Yes.
I have said have a good chance to win the NFC, have now added a huge piece in Marshawn Lattimore, big time corner for the New Orleans Saints, who and the Saints, they've punted on the season at this point. I mean, they're basically out of the playoffs, not mathematically, but we all know, I mean, if you go back to our first couple shows, we are saying, wow, the Saints are a potential real team. And now they're trading their best player away to the Washington Commanders, who are
It just went downhill. It went
all fired
downhill.
up with Jayden Daniels and these Washington Commanders. Someone who, I mean, when you look at the draft, I was wrong on Jayden Daniels. This guy's a star. This guy is a dog at the end of
He's
the day. He
amazing.
is awesome. I was wrong on CJ Stroud last year. I was wrong on Jayden Daniels this year. So maybe my quarterback take should not be respected anymore. I think I'm done. I think I'm
It
done with my
happens. It
quarterback take.
happens.
Yeah. I mean, well, I don't like any of the quarterbacks in this class. So knowing my quarterback luck, we've got 6 superstars coming out of this draft class at this point. So the Washington Commanders, we have to talk about them. Interesting how we're talking about Washington right after the election talk, but that's just me. I didn't even plan
Ah,
that.
yeah.
Washington, D.C., their commanders, the DMV, Virginia area, everything. They've got a great football team, Joel. At the moment, I think they should be the favorites to win the NFC if they're not already. Obviously, Detroit's right there, and they just added Zadarius Smith as well. It was an interesting trade deadline, but again, the Washington Commanders came out and got a star corner, adding to a pretty solid secondary as well in Washington, but they needed that star. So,
Yeah.
your thoughts on that move, the Commanders, everything about this squad down in DC?
Yeah, Washington came out of left field, you know. It's funny, like in the beginning of the year, I kind of was like looking at the predictions of like how I thought each team was gonna do, and I said, "Oh, max, they're probably gonna get like 6 wins,
Yeah,
7 wins, maybe something like that." And yeah, they're definitely gonna surpass that now. And yeah, like you said, Jayden Daniels. Okay, I think we kind of knew, oh, this guy's gonna be good. I don't think anybody thought he was gonna be this good, this fast.
right.
I don't think anybody viewed that happening anytime soon. And yeah, I mean, Jayden Daniels, one of the things that I saw was, can you elevate this team? And my God, like the thing is, when you look at Washington in the offseason and where they were at, they didn't really make that many big moves. They signed a lot of guys who were like at the back end of their career, like Bobby Wagner, they did, and Austin Eckler. They signed a bunch of these dudes that's just like, okay, like man, like I guess this is where the washed players are going to Washington. That's where they're gonna go. And they bring in Jayden Daniels, and then all of a sudden, it's like all of these players that they brought in, and all the players that they did have, all of a sudden, they were like rejuvenated, to I guess get the word right. Jayden Daniels by far has been probably the best rookie quarterback that I've ever seen. I'm not
Yeah.
even messing around with you. He has been he took a team that was very bad, okay? Very bad. The Washington Commanders, and not to mention what they had to go through with the ownership.
Right.
And last year, or this past offseason, I should say, they were in contention to sign Ben Johnson as their head coach. And Ben Johnson did not take the job. The reason why he didn't take the job, and I'm paraphrasing here, was basically that Washington was filled with a bunch of basketball guys, and he didn't believe that the Washington Commanders were really taking anything seriously. That it's just like it is what it is, and he just didn't like the vibes that Washington got. Washington was a team that players were like actively trying to trade out of. If you went to Washington, your career was over. Now the script has flipped, and people want to go to Washington strictly because of Jayden Daniels. It is nobody like listen. They got some good players. They want to go to play with Jayden Daniels. That's why they want to play there.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think by far they're winning the NFC East, and I think they're gonna, I think they'll make it to the divisional round of the playoffs. And from that point on, who knows? I think Detroit is a huge contender in the NFC, but Washington's looking really good right now. And yeah, some of us may have to reevaluate how we view quarterbacks because I'm kind of right there with you, where it's like I like Jayden Daniels. I never thought he was gonna be this good though. Never saw that happening.
There were some people that really did love Jayden Daniels and thought he was going to be a star, but I don't even think those people thought he'd be this good in year one. He's got a ton of experience. He played a long time. He won the Heisman for crying out loud. We kind of ignored that. Even in the draft, I think we kind of ignored the Heisman because we've seen so many Heisman busts at this point
Right.
that the award has kind of lost its as the Gen A kids say, aura. It's kind of lost it. So we kind of didn't think about that. We didn't think about his great season. We were worried about how he put his body on the line. We were worried about how he was as a scrambler, his accuracy. We were worried about all these things that we just didn't. We kind of ignored the he nice meter, and he just. He reads defenses so well. He has such a great understanding of the game too. But he is just a star. That's really when you say the word star, Jayden Daniels is the definition of a star. He's got the personality, he's got the fire, he's got the flair, he's got everything. So yeah, these Commanders, I think they are primed to potentially win the NFC if they get a home playoff game in the divisional round, wild card, whatever it is. They get a couple home playoff games. This franchise is getting turned around, and we'll see in the offseason if how many guys do want to play with Jayden Daniels because
One,
I've never seen, especially the trade deadline, I've never seen guys on other teams basically say, "Hey, I want to go play for that rookie quarterback on this team that's hot right now. That's where I want to go." Even when the Colts got Andrew Luck, I think Andrew Luck is a better rookie quarterback than Jayden was, but when the Colts got Andrew Luck, all these guys, rookie quarterbacks, everything, you've never seen people want to jump ship, want to get on the wagon
mm,
because I think they realize how great this guy is going to be and currently is. It's interesting. They got a great defense. Austin Eckler has really looked solid.
yeah,
Terry McLaurin, new life. They might need another receiver, but they look awesome.
yeah.
Um,
They are a fun team to watch, which I never thought I would say about the Washington Commanders. They are
yes,
a very fun team to watch.
yes, and they have also stamped the fact that we now have to deal with the Commander name. If you have a season this good, they're not going to change the name now. You can't.
Nah,
We're never going back to Washington football team.
that is funny how like even after the change of commanders, they were like, okay, we may not need to change this name because of how
Yeah,
bad the backlash was. And now it's like, well, now hold on a second. Now this is kind of like a brand, and you're building that
right.
brand with Jayden Daniels, and it's like, well, now you because you see I think I don't know how updated it is, but he was like the number one selling jersey in the NFL.
Yeah,
A Washington Commanders
Washington.
jersey
Not a
was the
huge market when it comes to the rest of the league either.
Like I'm a
Um,
Giants fan and I'm like, man, I would love to get like you know that black and yellow Commanders
yeah.
jersey?
Oh yeah.
That is crazy cool. I like that. It's a
It's
cool jersey.
it's
I'm like
going triple platinum in the DMV right now. That number
I would
5.
love to get that that
Yeah,
jersey right there.
it's cool. He's just so much fun to watch. He's so cool to follow. It's been awesome. But moving on, Joel. On a very personal note, the Indianapolis Colts are bad. That's
Yeah.
all. The Indianapolis Colts um, are trying to manage a quarterback situation with Anthony Richardson, who has not played well this season. And when he has gotten time in the game, because this guy has not even played 20 football games at this point. Um, when you even count college, he's barely played 2025 football games at any level. Um, Playing for Florida and getting drafted top 5 pick. And now the Colts have decided, and before Sunday night, they decided we are going to start Joe Flacco, not just for a game, but Joe Flacco is our quarterback for the foreseeable future,
For
right?
the rest of the season.
And what the vibe of that was, and after Anthony Richardson had a bad game against Houston, the vibe of that move was this guy can't play. Anthony Richardson. He is not the guy. We are giving up on him. We're going to send him to the bench. And we think Joe Flacco gives us a better chance to win football games. That's the decision Shane Steichen made. And it just absolutely blew up in the face of the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday Night Football. It was just an awfully offensive game, no offensive touchdown. They could not move the ball. It was a Thursday night football game that was played on Sunday, that game. And as a Colts fan, we're kind of used to this stuff at this point. Having watched Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, Philip Rivers, Sam Ellinger, Scott Tolzien, we could go back as long as you want to go for the non-luck, non-Manning quarterbacks that we've seen. But to see a 22-year-old who's clearly a project quarterback, right? Joel, have you ever started a project and said, this is going to take some time? And
Yeah,
you said,
yeah.
you know what? I'm just not going to work on this project anymore. Even though I've spent all this money to get the supplies for this project, I'm just going to stop the project no, for no reason, even though it's in its infancy. That's what the Colts did. Um, he's a project quarterback. We all knew that. And they just have not done anything to prepare him for his confidence in the NFL, to prepare him for the NFL. And quarterback development is ruined in the NFL at this point, Joel.
I okay. I think what the Colts were trying to do was get away from that narrative of the non-athletic quarterback. Here's what I thought the Colts were doing. This is exactly what I thought they were doing. I think they were trying to look at the Philadelphia Eagles and said, okay, look what they went through with Carson Wentz. And then immediately they drafted Jalen Hurts. And everybody was like, what are you doing? Where you drafted Jalen Hurts for all this stuff? Blah, 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 blah. They didn't realize he is a freak athlete, Jalen Hurts. And you look at the success that the Eagles have had. They were trying to do that. And also, let's say, let's hire Shane Steichen from that Eagles staff. Let's get him in here. Let's get a guy who can run with the ball, a guy who's strong, a guy who can jump, a guy who's fast. Like, we want a guy like that, a guy who could throw the ball deep. He has all the intangibles that you would want to see in a quarterback. Physically, he has all that. But one of the other things that you have to keep in mind was, has he shown you anything that he can be a good quarterback? Jalen Hurts, you kind of saw that in college. You didn't really see that with Anthony Richardson in college. You never really saw that. They drafted him strictly based off potential because of what they thought he could be, right? What they thought the Colts could be. They had a good offensive line. They have pretty good receivers. They got Jonathan Taylor, a very good running back. I think they got a good defense. I think their defense is okay,
Yeah, top
but
five
some
defensive line
guys,
in the NFL. Yeah.
yeah, I thought their defense was fine. It doesn't get talked about a lot. It really doesn't. But I think with the Colts, they got caught in a situation where they were just like gallivanting towards the fact that, oh my God, this is a quarterback we could have on our team. He's a project quarterback. Yeah, you should be using him like the Packers were using Jordan Love. Don't start him right away. I don't think he's ready right now. Let's get a veteran in here that we could start for maybe a year or two. Maybe that could have been Flacco. I don't know. But
Yeah.
a year or two, leave that person in there and just have Anthony Richardson watch them. We don't want him to play right away. He's only 22 years old. At the time, he's 21. You don't want to play him right away. Let him sit down, and by the time he's 24-ish, 23, late 23, who knows? Maybe he could play, and he could actually start for us, and he'd be pretty good. But the Colts were not patient with him. The Colts were not patient. They said, no, he's a freak athlete. We want to start him now. We want to start him now. What happens? He hurts his shoulder. He's out for the year. Okay, so that didn't work. We're gonna try this again. He's been with us for a year now. He's been in the building. He's been watching us play. He's been watching Gardner Minshew lead this team to the playoffs. Okay,
Almost.
or almost. Sorry.
They
Almost.
were a Tyler Goodson catch away. Yes.
They were, yes. I keep forgetting about that. Sorry. It
Yes.
just felt like they did because they were
It
kind
felt
of
like
a good.
there was a great run by Gardner Minshew. Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like they had a good run.
Yeah.
But basically, they thought he was ready, and he wasn't. And even showing it now, it's like, clearly you're not ready, and clearly it's like, also mentally. One of the things that you didn't bring up was the fact that he subbed himself out of a game
Yes.
against the Houston Texans
Kind of
because he
blocked it
was
out of my
tired.
memory.
Because he was tired. It was a divisional game. It was the third quarter. They were by no means out of the game. They absolutely could have come back and won that game. They were down by like 6, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was basically a one-score game. And they were in the red zone. And it was third down. I'm tired. I'm gonna sub myself out. I'm tired. And listen, by no means should you or I be talking about what it means to be tired. We're not athletes, okay? I
Yeah.
understand that. But I see what other athletes are saying. I see what other starting quarterbacks, former starting quarterbacks, potential Hall of Famers, I see what they're saying about what Anthony Richardson said. And every single one of them have the same mentality. You can't do that. Even if you are tired, lie. Don't say that you're tired. Say that you're cramping. Say something. Say anything. You telling them that you are tired. That makes everybody on the team say, F this guy. I don't want him on my team. I don't want him starting for me.
Yeah.
I don't want to play for him. Like that's basically what it was. And one of the things that I thought was very interesting, and I mentioned it on our TikTok. Make sure you go see that video. Um, when Shane Steichen came out and said, "Oh, Anthony Richardson is not going to be starting anymore. We're going to be starting Joe Flacco," a reporter asked him like basically if this was like a team decision. He said, "Well, I can't speak for the team." That to me tells me that there were maybe potentially receivers that went up to Shane Steichen and said, "You got to do something about this guy." And I don't mean like, oh, like we got to fix. No, 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 no. Fix this because clearly it's night and day between Joe Flacco and Anthony Richardson. And it's like, we're not trying to build a project right now. I want to win. I want to win because my stats, the second contract that I get in this league determines on how my stats are. And if this guy is throwing me the ball, he's costing me money. He's costing us wins. That would be some of these guys' mentality. So I understand why they wouldn't want Anthony Richardson to be the starter. I understand why Colts fans wouldn't want him to be the starter. That's why I view it as I don't know how you can come back from this. I really don't.
I don't either.
I gen I genuinely think I've seen a lot of people say like, oh no, the Colts aren't done with him. He's too young. They're not done with him. Josh Rosen.
He's
That's
done.
what I would say. Josh Rosen, like he was with the Cardinals for 1 year. He was the 10th overall pick, and the Cardinals were so bad that they got the number one pick, and they said, you know what, we're moving on. Kyler Murray's way better. We know he's better. We're just gonna have him, and he's been with the team ever since.
Yeah.
And I can't even tell you where Josh Rosen is now. Anthony Richardson, he's gonna be
Finance
this. Oh yeah, Penn State or something.
somewhere. Maybe I
Yeah,
don't know. I just kind of made that up. It could be
probably.
real.
Genuinely, I don't know.
Indianapolis, yeah, like I said, I think. I mean, you look at the head tap, and the head tap is where you kind of go to when this decision was made, and the Houston Texans game. Joel, if they win the Texans game, they were
The
leading
first,
the AFC South.
yeah, they're first in the division if they
They
win
would have
that
been
game.
first in the division. Now they're basically 3 games back. It was that big of a game. Um, and Josh Downs did come out and say, "Hey, Anthony Richardson is 22 years old. Like he'll be fine. His one of could be his best receiver." Um, I found that very interesting. How I think teammates of his are in a bit of a crossroads, right? Because when you're quarterback, and a lot of people kind of were discussing, oh, why is this such a big deal? If he was tired, he was tired. I'm like, well, that's not how football works, right? I mean,
That's not how football works.
if that was so normal, then quarterbacks would tap out all the time, and the backup quarterbacks would get tons of burn and tons of
You
play.
you don't think that there's 21 other guys on the field that are tired?
Everyone's tired.
Everyone's tired.
It's war, right?
It's
We're
a
all we're all
sport.
tired.
Every
Um,
every single athlete of every sport is tired.
yeah, but you push through it, and that's what is the
You're
difference between a
tired.
champion,
Everyone's tired.
difference between a champion and someone who fails at the sport. And also just shows you don't care as much about your team. You don't care about the division. You don't care about the stakes. You don't care about making the playoffs. That's the kind of vibe you get as in a locker room, especially on the defense. Defensive guys were not happy about this. That was the main side of the ball when it came to analysts and on ESPN or wherever you want to talking about this move. It was defensive guys because those guys battle every single play, especially in the trenches. Your offensive line, how do they feel about that? So it could not have had to do with his play as much. There might have been a full on locker room discussion of, hey, if you're going to do that, you're not my quarterback. You're not starting a quarterback in the NFL. You're not getting one of the most sought after 32 jobs in the world, quarterbacking in the NFL. So yeah, I get it. This Colts team just isn't ready with Joe Flacco. The Shane Steichen offense is not built for Joe Flacco. It's built for mobile quarterbacks. It's not built for the older veteran to come in and make things work. And
I
you saw that Sunday night.
I'm not necessarily gonna overreact to what happened Sunday night. Let's not ignore that the Minnesota Vikings are a very good defense.
They are. No,
They're
they are.
they are arguably one of the top defenses in the league this year. They're
Correct.
like that. That's why I'm kind of like I kind of loosened the leash a little bit when it comes to the Colts for Sunday because it's like, okay, they were faced. I don't know who they face next week, but I'm like, they're probably gonna face a much.
Buffalo. Buffalo
Okay,
at
that's
home, and then the Jets on the road, and the Lions.
okay. Jets, they might be able to do some work, and same with the line, but
Yeah,
um, yeah, that's the only thing I was saying because I look at the upcoming schedule and it's like, okay, Minnesota, they are a very good defense, and it's
yeah.
kind of hard to have Joe Flacco go out there and just, be elite prime Joe Flacco with the
Elite quarterback
with
Joe Flacco.
elite quarterback Joe Flacco. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not really overreacting to that fact. I will say, like you said, I'm not saying that they didn't look great. They did not look great. They just
They look
didn't.
horrible, Joe. They look
Yeah,
horrible.
they look really bad. They looked really bad.
Horrible. It was one of the worst offensive performances I've seen in my team all year, and probably the past couple years. And I've seen a lot of bad quarterbacks play for the Indianapolis Colts. It's been
Yeah,
tough.
it's I don't see how it gets better. That's the other
That's the
thing too.
problem. That's the bigger problem. It's not this is bad because when things are bad, you usually see the path to getting better, right? When Anthony Richardson was bad, you see, okay, he can improve in this area, this area, this area. He can improve his accuracy, right?
Right.
He makes throws that 99% of quarterbacks can't, and can't make the throws 99% of quarterbacks can. But there's consistent improvement somewhere in some departments, and he made star throws. But Joe Flacco, I mean, we know who Joe Flacco is.
Let me ask you right here right now as a Colts fan, going into the draft next year, you think you're taking a quarterback?
Depends how bad they are. Depends how bad they are.
Like, do
If they have a top 10 pick, a quarterback comes off the board.
I'm about to say, let's say they have a top 15 pick and only one quarterback has been taken and the Colts are on the clock. Do you think they're taking either Cam Ward or Shador Sanders?
I mean, it also depends how well they're scouted. But if you let's say Cam Ward wins a Heisman, and if Cam Ward gets the same kind of evaluation of Jayden Daniels or wherever, right, veteran quarterback, older guy, go get it done. You go take him. Yeah, they will take him. They will take a quarterback, and I don't know if that's going to be the right decision because man, is this secondary awful. This secondary is terrible.
Yeah.
I If Travis Hunter decides to stick with cornerback, go get him.
I think he may be playing both. I'm not gonna speculate on that, but I'm pretty sure he's playing
If he
both.
plays both, I don't want him on an NFL roster as a fan of my team because I don't think it's going to work. But if he commits to one position and it's corner, I want him as he's an elite corner, he's an elite wide receiver. I mean, if he tries to play both, sure. I mean, he could pull a Deion Sanders, right? They did throw Deion
Yeah,
Sanders at
it's like
receiver sometimes.
it's like a
Um,
50-50 thing where like he doesn't
yeah.
play like, all the snaps, but like he'll
But
still be
you
out
can
there.
throw him out right. You know, a couple drives a game, maybe you use him out there because he's just so talented, or have him return kicks or whatever you want to do. He's just such a freak athlete. Um, I wouldn't mind him in blue and white. So we'll see. But this team has a lot to think about. They have a lot to do. I think they're going to clean house when it comes to the coach, when it comes to Ballard. I think this is a year where you clean house because this secondary is awful. Um, there's not much to build on, especially after this kind of year. And I think they'll end up cleaning house. I do at this point of the year. I think that this is the last time you'll see Shane Steichen coach the Indianapolis Colts. So I think Chris Ballard's also done as general manager because you need a new breath of life at this point, especially if you're moving on from Richardson. You need a breath of life.
There's a lot of teams that need a fresh breath of life.
Yeah,
By that
I've
means,
never used that phrase, but I think I'm going to use it now.
that's a good phrase. I
I'll take
actually
it,
like
right?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like
Okay.
that.
There we go. I'll come up with stuff. But Joel, a team that probably needs a new breath of what did I say? Breath of life. That's what it was.
Breath of
A
life.
new breath of life. There you go. New breath of life. The Chicago Bears. And I don't think it involves the quarterback, but we're going to talk about it. Chicago had a huge game against the Arizona Cardinals on the road in Glendale, and the Cardinals just took them down 29-9. And we were talking about it before the show. A big thing we saw in this Bears game that you definitely want to talk about is the Bears looked like they gave up
They gave up.
in this game.
They absolutely gave up. It
Yeah.
it's the culture there. I don't even know. Like, well, no, I do know. And here's the thing. I do not care. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say this. I do not care how good Caleb Williams is. This team did not want him. They
Yeah.
didn't want him. They wanted Justin Fields. The management, the ownership may have said, listen, Caleb, he's blah, blah, blah. They liked Justin Fields. I'm not talking about the player. They liked Justin Fields. They liked him. And it's like they got rid of him for this guy who is this generational prospect who, don't get me wrong, he's had his flashes. I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback by any means. He's a rookie. He's a good quarterback, but that's not the point. People are watching this, and it's like, man, I didn't even want to be in this situation. Not only that, speaking of the Commanders earlier, the Commanders killed them. They absolutely
Yeah.
killed them because that Hail Mary pass against the Washington Commanders absolutely destroyed this team. Tyreek Stevenson, who is a good corner, by the way. He's a good corner.
Yes,
I like
people ignore that part. People ignore that part.
people are thinking like, oh, this random guy. No, Tyreek Stevenson is a very good corner. I like
Yeah.
him a lot, especially in his rookie year, last year, I believe. He showed out. Okay, he's a very good corner, and one mental error, the game gets to you. The fans, I guess, they get to you, and now all of a sudden they've lost 2 games that I believe is all because of this one little situation. I genuinely think that's
Right.
where it is. That combined with the team not wanting Caleb Williams, I think just the entirety of the situation with the Bears has just it's been rubbish. It's been rubbish over there. And not even to mention, I'm sorry, I'm not one to be like, oh, he should be fired. He should be there, blah, blah, blah. I don't know how Matt Eberflus still has a job. I don't know how
I
he
was
does.
surprised that they let him keep the job
Last
switching
year,
quarterbacks. Right. That was the big discussion was, well, if they fire Eberflus, then they're probably going to draft Caleb. If they keep Eberflus, they're going to keep Justin as well and run it back. And they kept Eberflus, but
they did
drafted
half.
Caleb.
They
Right. They
did
did
half.
half. They did 50-50 of what you usually do with a new quarterback is get him a coach that fits him. And they did the exact opposite. I think Eberflus will be fired. I don't think that's a hot take. I think he will be fired at the end of the year. General management's fine. I think, yeah, a lot of guys wanted to keep Justin Fields. I don't think that makes them much better. They probably win the Commanders game if Justin Fields is a quarterback because, I mean, their offense has not looked as great, but that's also, I mean, Justin's a veteran, right? Justin's at this point, he's knows how to win
Yeah.
games. It's just interesting. I don't know. The
I
Bears, I just have the life just got sucked out of them.
yeah.
It really did. And one thing to note about Chicago as well, 4-0 at home, 0-4 on the road.
Yes.
That's a bit. Caleb has also not been a good quarterback. He was never a good quarterback on the road in college either. So maybe that's gonna, that's a narrative I have for you.
I don't know if you saw this stat, but it might have changed. I'm not exactly sure, but I saw that Matt Eberflus on the road on Sundays is 0-18.
On the road on Sundays, it's 0-18.
He's 0-18 on the road on Sundays.
Is that
I did not know that.
That's when most football games are for those who
Yes,
don't know.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 0-18
0-18 on the road.
on
Uh,
Sundays.
so
That is an insane stat.
right.
It's an insane stat.
But you look at the Bears, right?
Right.
What do you do?
Well, so one of the things that I actually know a Bears fan, right?
Yeah, me
And
too.
a couple days ago, I asked him. I said, like, like, what do you think? Like, how I go to school with him.
Yeah.
Like, how do you think the team is and all this stuff? Because I'm a Giants fan. I don't know that much about the Bears. He tells me, he goes, you know what the problem is? The ownership. Absolutely,
Yeah,
that is the problem.
it has been.
He goes, they play this game as if it's the 1950s
Right.
because he goes, you know why Matt Eberflus has not been fired? Because that's not up here. That's not what they believe
Yeah.
in their head. This is not what they believe in. They said, no, we signed him to a year. We will keep him for the year. And then at the end of the year, if nothing has changed, then we let him go. They could fire him right now, and it'd probably be a much better team, but they don't believe in that. That's not how they do this. And they said that is why this team is never gonna be anywhere. Because one of the things that they saw was, even though I understand he wasn't really all that good, Mitch Trubisky, okay? He had one head coach, they fire him, he gets another head coach, and he turns into what he turns into.
Yeah.
Justin Fields had Matt Nagy. They fire him after his first year, after Justin Fields' first year. Bring in Eberflus. All of a sudden, here comes a new quarterback. They have Matt Eberflus. He's gonna get fired, and now he's gonna get another head coach. These quarterbacks for Chicago, it's like no matter how good they are never put in a situation where they can succeed. And it's mainly because of the Bears. It's only them. Nobody else is doing this to you. They thought they were helping him by trading for Keenan Allen and instantly extending DJ Moore. One of the things that I saw, and I couldn't even believe this, there was a stat talking about the most receivers that were missed, right? That where a quarterback would throw the ball and it just completely misses them. Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze, and DJ Moore are all top 10 on that list.
Yeah.
All three of them are in the top 10 on that list. Out of all the receivers in the entirety of the NFL, all three Bears top receivers are on that list. I did not know that, and I thought that was an insane stat.
Right. It's nuts. It's nuts.
So yeah, like I said, I just think the Bears right now are in a situation where, listen, I understand they made their bed laying it when it comes to Caleb Williams. I'm not sitting here saying that Caleb Williams is a bad quarterback. All I'm saying is the team was much happier with Justin Fields. They were much happier with him.
And he's not. Justin would have been put in a better position for success because he would have been with the franchise, been with the
Yeah,
team. Receivers he knows as well. If you keep a couple, give him a Dunze, give him Keenan Allen in addition. But they, like you said, this is their bet. They've made it. They're going to lay in it. We'll see what they do. And big thing for Chicago, they get 3 home games coming up. They play New England next week. This week, I guess. They play the Packers at home. They play the Vikings at home. So not easy games. Those 2 after New England. And New England has had some fire to them with Drake May, but
he looks so good.
he looks really good. Yeah, he looks really good. I mean, Tennessee, but he still
But
looks like
still,
he just
yeah,
looks like he looks like a gamer. He looks
yeah,
like a gamer. I'm ready to see what he does going forward. And Indianapolis Colts take notes. It's how you develop a quarterback a little bit. Let him sit for a few weeks, get a Jacoby Brissett, and then when he's ready, let him go.
yeah,
That's what they did. But here we are. The Chicago Bears, though, I agree. The McCaskies, I mean, this is the thing about Chicago is the cycle that you just proposed for the past 3 quarterbacks, right? Sure, that's the past 3 quarterbacks. That's been going on for the past 50 years,
yeah,
past 100 years of
yeah.
Chicago.
You could go further back. You go,
They
yeah,
have never had a quarterback. Jay Cutler, Rex Grossman, Jim McMahon had some good times there with 85 team. But you look at Chicago, the only time they've won a Super Bowl is when they had the greatest defense to ever exist.
yeah.
That is the only way that the Chicago Bears, the way they're run, would make the Super Bowl because they just have no flow, no concept of how quarterbacks succeed in this league. They are. We talk about the definition of insanity when it comes to a lot of this stuff, and I think we overuse that phrase. But when it comes to the Chicago Bears, that is them. The McCaskies do that, and they also have other shortcomings that if you talk to Bears fans, they know all about. So this is just a cycle. I think Caleb is a unique case because he's so good that you're not just going to get rid of him during his rookie contract because he's so good, because of the hype he got around him, because he's the #1 overall pick. That's what you don't usually see. A top pick, right? That's the difference. Mitch Trubisky wasn't that. Justin Fields wasn't that. They were high draft picks, but they weren't the #1 draft choice at the end of
Mm-hmm.
the day. It's a different story when it comes to the #1 pick. But I wouldn't be surprised if Caleb Williams has a Baker kind of arc. Maybe a bit quicker in terms of rebounding, but I don't know if the Bears are the team that Caleb Williams finds success on. I really don't. I think if you put him in another situation, I think if Caleb goes down a Baker arc, he'll be even better than Baker currently is. That's the way I kind of view him.
Yeah, I'm looking at Caleb Williams right now and that whole situation with Chicago, and it's kind of at a point where I'm just like, I feel like I feel like the Bears themselves are steering away from success when it's right at your feet.
Yeah,
When it's right at your feet, because you have everything you could have possibly. You absolutely fleeced the Carolina Panthers okay, for the Bryce Young trade. You absolutely fleeced them, okay? You are literally set up for success. You have Ryan Poles, who I think is a very good GM. I like him a lot. They they still find themselves in situations where it's like it's kind of like where we're talking about the Jets. It's like, well, it's still the Bears.
Right.
It's still the Bears. Like it's funny you mentioned that freaking 85 defense when they won the Super Bowl with. You know how good that defense is? Anytime there's a good defense, we say, "Oh, they're
Yes.
looking like the 85 Bears."
85 Bears. When
They're
the
the 85
2001 Ravens existed, even, and we still talk about the 85 Bears to
the
this day.
85 Bears.
That defense is about it's again the 50 years ago at this point. It's but they're still regarded as that good. We even talk about old offenses and think, oh, but they're nothing like the offenses of today. No, that defense is like they could play today.
But
They
it's
could play
been
today.
but the thing is it's been nearly 40 years
Yeah.
and they still have never even eclipsed that sort of hype. It just never has. And it the other thing that's funny too when it comes to Chicago, I think in the beginning of the year, you had a lot of people saying like, "Oh, this team's gonna win 10 games. This team's gonna win 11 games."
They
Because
still can win 10 games.
I don't think they can.
I mean,
I I
there's still a path. They still have the rest of the division. That's the problem. They play all the
that that
division
that
games, but they play
that's the
New England. They can beat Green Bay once or twice. They still have a path to it. I'm not saying they will. I'm just saying it's possible. There's still a game under 500, or they're still
like
four. They're
what's the
four and
record
four.
right now? Was it
Four and
four and
four.
five?
4-4.
4-4. Feels like they're 4-5. But it's just like this team right now, if I see them going 7-10.
Yeah.
I genuinely see them going 7-10. And it has nothing to do with like, oh, they're not good enough. Oh, they're this, blah, blah, blah. I
Nope.
just don't think that fire's in them anymore.
No, they don't have it.
I just don't see it.
Here's my thing about rookie quarterbacks. A rookie quarterback will win 7 games, and we'd say that was a solid year to build on.
Yeah.
But because it's Chicago, we've seen years like this with rookie quarterbacks. We don't think about building in Chicago because Chicago's never really built anything like this. Um, and he's in the toughest division in football in the NFC North. I mean, if I would say if 7 games with their current situation, not getting into the year, but at this current point, if they win 7 games, it's a successful season. It's a successful
Yeah.
season at this point because you're not winning the Super Bowl, you're not making the playoffs. But I don't know where they build after this because they're going to fire Eberflus and maybe Caleb likes him. I don't know. They have to make a home run higher, and they just haven't been able to do it. They just haven't been able to do it.
Get
If
Ben
they would,
Johnson.
Ben Johnson, sure, yeah. I mean, they hit a. Yeah, we'll see. Um, but they have to figure it out because they have too much talent on that football team to not succeed and not be at least a contender in the NFC North, let alone the NFC. But a team that we kind of thought was the antithesis, the opposite of the Bears, a team that kind of started out rough, started out struggling, and now we look at them and say, "Oh, this is a contender in the NFC, Joel. This is a contender in the NFC." The Philadelphia Eagles, in my opinion. Nick Sirianni and that crew, big win over the Jacksonville Jaguars. They almost blew this game, by the way. Um, and we'll talk about it. Big win. Obviously, they beat the Giants. They blew out the Giants. They beat, their Cleveland game was tough, but they won that game and they blew out Cincinnati on the road. And now you look at their schedule. They've got Dallas. Washington is going to be a huge game in November, on November 14th. Mark your calendar. Thursday Night Football. Washington and Philly. I'm going to be locked into that on the 14th. They still have the Rams, Panthers on the schedule, Steelers on the schedule, another Cowboy, Commander, and Giant game, and they play the Ravens too. Um, so not the hardest schedule, easiest schedule, kind of in the middle when it comes to the Eagles. Joel, I think they're contenders in the NFC. We're starting to look like the Philadelphia Eagle team that made it to the Super Bowl against Kansas City. They're starting to get back to that mode. Jalen Hurts looks pretty solid to me. And that Jaguar game, while late in the game they started to let it get away from them. When you have Saquon Barkley, when you have a guy like Devontae Smith making great catches, AJ Brown's health is, we'll see what he is. But this team is awesome when it comes to on paper. It's just a matter of putting it together. I wonder if you think Nick Sirianni can kind of get that done when it comes to the postseason this time around.
They are absolute frauds.
You're going
I'm
frauds.
telling you
See,
that.
I
They
set you up
they
there.
are they are absolute frauds. Thank you for that lob. Um, I don't believe in this team. I genuinely don't. They have a lot of flashy weapons. Okay. I've seen Saquon Barkley play. I know he's a good running back. I
Yeah.
know they have a great offensive line. I know Jalen Hurts is a dog. I know they have good receivers. I do not like that coach. I don't like him. I look at Nick Sirianni. Okay, he's a great. I think he's a great like locker room guy. He has like that passion. He has that energy. He tries to be like a Dan Campbell a little bit, but there is not a single coach in the league who leaves more points off the board than Nick Sirianni does. Not one. I have seen this team make decisions where I'm like, I don't know if I would have done that. I don't know if I would have done that. And they do it time and time again. We ignore them because they still win.
Yeah,
But I'm telling you right now, that game against Jacksonville, that's what did it for me. Where I look at this team and I say, you should be thanking Christ that Trevor Lawrence threw that interception and Nakobe Dean made an insane catch to get that interception. If he does not catch that ball and Trevor Lawrence, they take some time off the clock and they end up getting a touchdown and end up winning the game. I don't know if Nick Sirianni is even the head coach the next day.
that's
I
right.
don't know if he is. They blow that game against They were winning 22 to nothing. They were winning 22 zip nothing. And they almost won that game and the Jaguars almost won that game at Philadelphia. I I look at this team and this is the team that I see like, oh, they could be contended, blah, blah, blah. I still remember when they put up 0 yards against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at like halftime or something like that. I still remember like all of these injuries that they're dealing with. AJ Brown, he he went into the back. Obviously, I understand like he's fine now, but it's like where does it end? Where I'm like, oh, he's banged up. Oh no, he's fine. Oh no, he's banged up. Oh, we're gonna throw him out there, put him back in at halftime. Oh, he has to go back in. His knee hurts a little bit. It's like it's always something with the Eagles to me. It's always something where I look at them and I'm just like, man, I can't even tell if this team's serious. I can't even tell if this team is serious or not
Yeah,
because right now I'm looking at the Commanders and I'm like, man, this team that everyone thought like was filled with a bunch of basketball dudes and a bunch of washed up guys. I think the Commanders look way better than the Eagles do right now. I understand that they have weapons that are like very good. I saw that Saquon Barkley backwards hurdle. Never
real
seen
fun.
anything like that before in my life.
Yeah, it was
That was
nuts.
that was that was nuts. That was awesome. Still though, I'm looking at that head coach, and I'm not saying they can't make the playoffs. They'll definitely make the playoffs. But when it comes to the NFL playoffs, it comes to a point where it's a chess match between the two head coaches. It becomes a chess match where you have to strategically beat your opponent. Okay, that is literally the entire mindset of the playoffs. Every team is good in the playoffs. Every team is good. Everybody has a great running back. Everybody has great receivers. Everybody has a great defense. Everybody does. That's the entire point of the playoffs. It comes down to how can you strategically beat the guy in front of you, the head coach. And I think every single head coach can beat Nick Sirianni. That's what I think can
In a
happen.
chess match.
I, I,
Can they beat that defense though? That's the thing. That's the biggest thing I think about Philadelphia. That defense is stout.
I think they've played better. I think they've played better. I still am suspect on them. I can't tell you for sure. Listen, I look at this defense and I'm looking at them saying, okay, still though, they were up 22 nothing. And all of out of nowhere, Jacksonville comes out and is one single drive away from winning this game.
Well, it shouldn't have got to that point.
It's
And
no, you're right. It shouldn't have gotten
no,
to
but
that
I
point.
mean the fumble call on Saquon Barkley. There was a defensive touchdown. They called a fumble on Saquon Barkley when it was clearly touched before a tackle. They should not have had that second touchdown.
I
They
just
should
think
not
you're
have had that. He,
right.
he got clipped on the foot, and there was a very clear replay of it. Him getting clipped on the foot, and that brought him down. That was one of the worst calls I've actually seen in a very long time. It would have stayed 22-8. They would have continued to run the ball with Saquon. He got like 5 or 6 yards on that play, and the game would have been basically over. So I think that's my storyline of that football game. And sure, when that happens, they shouldn't have let it get to the point where they were almost getting a game-winning drive happening to them. But I mean, they played prevent they're up 28-60 after the Devontae touchdown. They played a little prevent. They got soft, but it should not have. That was a horrible, horrible call on the defensive touchdown. That was my storyline for the game. And Philly should not have let that get to them. And that's coaching though. That's coaching though. When you let a bad call get to you defensively, that's coaching. I've never been huge on Nick Sirianni as a head coach. I just look at this team and I see how great they are on paper. And I wish they had a better coach because this is a team that is I mean, they're on paper, they're basically the best defense in the NFL, just on paper. And Jalen Hurts is supposed to be playing a lot better. Saquon Barkley is arguably the best running back in the National Football League, next besides Derrick Henry. On paper, this should be a team that's front runners for the NFC, but they have not hit their potential in really a couple of years.
The other thing that you mentioned, so okay, you said what? They beaten the Bengals, they beaten the
They haven't beat
Giants.
great teams. No, recently. No, they beat
That's what I was gonna
their
say.
past four games. You look at them. It's Cleveland at home, Giants on the road, Bengals on the road, and they just beat Jacksonville by a touchdown. Lose to Tampa big time on the road. The Buccaneers carved them up. They barely beat the Saints. Right, they don't have the big wins. They beat the Packers in Brazil earlier in the year, and they almost beat the Falcons though. But again, that was week two.
So that's the other thing. Like majority of the teams that they've beaten are either tanking for the draft or have been at least struggling.
Yeah, so that's why I'm circling Thursday night Commanders because
That's
if
yeah,
if that if I watch Dallas, I'm not worried about the Dallas game next week. Even if they were to lose that game, I'm not worried about it. If you look at it for Philly, if they play the Commanders and the Commanders just come out and show they are way better than Philly, then we have to ask questions about Nick Sirianni and we have to ask questions about this team as a whole
because
and
my
where
thing is
they
like
were.
if we're talking about them potentially being contenders, sorry, I almost said
Yeah.
commanders. It's like I want to see you beat the Commanders. I want to see you beat the Chiefs.
Well,
I
yeah,
want
you'll
to
have
see
to
you
beat them.
I want to see you beat Detroit. I want to see you beat Baltimore. You if you can contend with these teams, if you could beat these teams, then it's like, okay, I'll buy in. I'll be like, okay, maybe Nick Sirianni is like not as bad as I thought he was. But I think there's just a difference between being strategic and being like reckless. I think there's a difference between that because a
Yeah.
lot of these times like the Eagles are one of those teams that they think they're up here and they should be up here, but realistically, all I've seen is that you're somewhere around here.
Right.
Or you can't see because it's audio. I just realized that. But like they're at a certain level and they're actually lower than they actually are. That's
Yeah.
all I'm really trying to say.
Maybe get you a clip out there so the video people can see you out
Oh,
there.
maybe we could do that. Yeah.
We could do that, you know. But yeah, definitely. I mean, they're a team that's kind of are always hung about that middle of the pack of the NFC these past few years. I don't know where they go though. If they end up, let's say they lose the next two, they're 6-4. They'll make the playoffs. They have a fair schedule. I mean, you look at the Commanders game. After that, they have the Rams on the road in prime time, Baltimore, and then they get an easy stretch at the end of the year, like I've mentioned. So we'll see. We'll find out just how good they are. We will. But there's a very good chance that this team only gets four losses at the end of the year. They make the playoffs, and they could get upset in a wild card game as well. Maybe they play Tampa again, and we all know what happens when they play Tampa. If Tampa can make the playoffs, it's a whole different story. But just throwing teams out there, there's a lot of good teams in this NFC. I also think the topic of, I mean, we've talked about NFC contenders a bit today. That topic has been opened up because the Niners have not been good,
Yeah.
and they're hurt and injured and banged up a ton, but they have not been good. Heading into the year, we were thinking, man, Super Bowl rematch is likely, and now the Niners might not even win their division. They might not even be top two in their division.
They've just been injured too.
Yeah, they've been hurt. And the Cardinals now have the door open to win the NFC West, Joel.
Jonathan Gannon looks like a very good head coach. I'm not gonna
It's
lie to
awesome.
you. He's
It's
he's
awesome.
he's very good.
And I'm finally being rewarded for supporting Kyler Murray this whole time as well. I've always had faith in Kyler.
I like Trey McBride. That's the only person on
Trey
the team that I
McBride,
really. He's the only team I like.
only human being on the team.
Yeah, he's the only team. He's the only person on the team I like. He may or may not be on my fantasy team.
He is.
He's
He
very
is.
he's very good.
You drafted him high,
He's a very good player.
as you should have. That team's fun though. That team is fun. Arizona, NFC West, NFC, Joel. Um, on a very fated day today, a very long day today after last night. I was up pretty late last night. I will be honest with
Yeah,
you.
I was up to like 3:30, 4 o'clock.
Yeah, just about the same.
Once I
Maybe a little
found
later.
once I found out that Donald Trump won Pennsylvania, that's when I went to
Well,
sleep.
yeah, that's when you really go to bed.
That
I was actually watching. I'll give you a bit of a shout out. I was watching my old college radio station. I was
cool.
watching their broadcast of the election. They were able to actually call the election. They went into like 3 in the morning covering the election. They did a live TV show. So shout out to WSOU.
Shout out! Wow, Jesus.
They did a live
I
TV
was
show from 6 to 3 in the morning, covering everything and talking the whole time. And only really when they break, well, they did breaks. They only broke for about 2 to 3 minutes.
I was gonna say shout out to like all of the news stations because like the
Yeah.
thing is like I saw a lot of people, especially on the East Coast, they're like talking like us up and about at like 4 o'clock in the morning, covering
Yes.
everything every single second. Like that's not an easy job. That is
It's
not
not.
easy. That's not
As
easy at
someone
all.
who's had to do it before, not at the professional level, but I've done it. It is not easy. You have to do a lot of it's a lot of research. Ninety
Yeah.
percent of it's research. 90% of it's understanding. I mean, Steve Kornacki is just watching him because he knows how every county functions. He just has this all in his brain of this random county in rural Georgia and why it matters for the election. It is
What a job.
yeah, that's a
What
great
a,
job.
what a job, man.
He has great jobs, and I can't wait to see Steve Kornacki predict the NFL playoffs coming up soon. But that's my big shout out. The news coverage of the election, I will say, was very efficient, very good. I had no complaints about what I saw, what I watched, and um, shout out to my college as well. Just great stuff all around from them. That's my takeaway for the election. The coverage,
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we can cover the NFL in just a good way as well. Joel, thank you for coming on as always. I don't know why I thank you, but I've kind of made it a tradition.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
Because I thank you
Thank
even
you.
though I thank you even though you said, hey, when do you want to do the podcast? We always going to sit down and talk to Joel
Yeah,
about these topics. We'll see if I'm right about the Eagles because I think the Eagles are the third best team in the NFC. How about that?
I do
How
not
about
like the
that,
Eagles.
Joel? Let's go. Let's ride. I have Detroit, Washington, and Philly in
But
any order.
I was about to say Super Bowl prediction right now. Who do you think's going?
Give me Washington, Kansas City.
Oh my God. I was gonna say Detroit and Kansas City.
Detroit feels too obvious. It
No,
feels too
wait,
obvious.
no, wait. I got a better one. Detroit, Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore. That's what we wanted last year, Joel. That's what we wanted last
I
year.
wanted that so badly.
We
Oh my
wanted it
God.
last
I
year.
wanted that so badly.
Can we take some? Can we get something, Lamar? Can we have some
Look,
happiness, Lamar?
come on.
And the
Lock
Chiefs dynasty.
lock in. Come
They
on.
won't. The Chiefs look great. They're undefeated. Um. Oh, quick question: should Todd Bowles have gone for two?
Yes.
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 That's my takeaway of the
I
game.
was mad when he didn't go for two. I
Yep.
was mad. I was like, they might lose the game. So what? Go for the win
Here's my
now.
thing. Here's my thing. Against any other team in the NFL, I say you take the point.
I say you go. I know you go for two. At that
I
point,
no,
I'd go for
no.
it.
I think just against if I'm playing the Lions, no, maybe the Lions, but if I'm playing 90% of other teams in the NFL, I'm taking the points. But because I have number 15 on the other side, it's either hey, I take the chance of my team. I have the ball in my hands right now, and I have a chance to take a 2 point conversion, get 2 yards, and win a football game. Or I have to take a 50-50 coin flip to get the a top five quarterback to ever play this game, the football, with one drive to win the game.
No way.
I'm not doing it.
No way.
I'm not doing it. A good argument against it was, well, Mahomes would have got the ball back with 25 seconds and three timeouts. The fact that that's even a discussion is how good that guy is at football. But that's it. Top. Okay, so we learned the Commanders are good. The Bears need something. I don't know what they need new ownership. At some point, the Eagles, fraudulent or not, you'll find out. One of us will be wrong. And the Colts, a mess. A mess. That's it.
That's a good wrap up.
Good wrap up. Thank you for tuning in to Break Panel Sports. We will see you another time. It's always great. Thank you for tuning in after the election, after everything, after staying up late last night, after all this stuff. It's always great to talk to you about everything. And always remember, go for two. We'll see you
Go
another
for
time.
two. See ya.